Morning, everyone. I hope you are doing fine and had a already good start into today. I welcome you to the second day of the 3CX Advanced Training. Today we will look into backups and then bridges. If you could quickly confirm with me if you can see the screen and also if you can hear me loud and clear. Okay, that's cool. Thank you very much for that. I think we have now 30 people inside. That should be enough to say we can go ahead. There's definitely one or two might drop in again later on. I just wanted to give you a quick update regarding the recordings. The I'm not sure yet if they will be placed on the Leader Academy, which actually would make sense because we have the platform, so it would make sense to have the trainings there, or if they will be placed on the YouTube channel from Leader. I don't know. I don't upload them. I only have to hand it over to the person who manages that platform. The basic, I got told that they should be uploaded today. Not sure if that is going to be done then. However, it's out of my reach in that way when the exact moment is when those trainings will be uploaded. Yeah, so we maybe just have to have a little bit of patience in that regard. Okay, so let's quickly jump into backups. Shouldn't be the most demanding and the biggest chapter because we have then afterwards we have bridges there. We need a little bit more time in that regard. So the backup is generally stored in a single zip file. So that is all information that is included there. It is used for migration, for example, host or server change, for hosted to on-premise, from on-premise to hosted. Hosted in that regard, any possible platform. So either it is self-hosted on a supported hosting provider, or it is self-hosted in a unsupported hosting provider where you have to manually install the 3CX software, or if you use 3CX hosted, it's always the same zip file. It also is also the same zip file if you do a operating system change. For example, if you go from Windows to Linux or from Linux to Windows. Then it is required for major version updates when you use Windows. For example, if you go from Windows version 18 update 9 to Windows version 20, you will have to create a backup and then afterwards restore the backup. Backup usage, sorry, you can use it for revision and recovery, change the ports that you are using, mainly on on-premise installation. For example, you remember yesterday when we looked at the port forwarding on the firewall, when I lined out the situation we have with on-prem installations when we use 443, generally for everything that is HTTPS, and we would then also use 443 for the 3CX installation, and we would forward 443 towards the IP of the 3CX. We would not be able to use any other HTTPS traffic because everything would be redirected to the 3CX. Then, of course, also we require backup use a backup for failover synchronization. We have different backup plans available. We have on-demand backup. We have scheduled hourly, nightly, or monthly backup plan. Turn it on, be safe. I would like to line out that we have there only one option available. So we cannot choose between create an hourly backup, then also additionally create a nightly backup plan, and then also a monthly backup plan. That is not existing. So we have either hourly or nightly or monthly. Hourly is definitely something that is used mainly when you have failover solutions so that you are more or less up to date as much as possible with um, the system when you need failover. However, what we also have to look into failover when we do it hourly and that file has a certain size, let's say, let's say 3 gigs. If that file has a certain size and the file has to be uploaded to the other server, and that other server is somewhere in a hosted environment, and your current machine is on a local environment. You have to make sure that literally the upload speed is enough for the uh, for the backup to be uploaded more or less in time, and then also for the other data that you have going in and out on that internet connection. And it's usually the upload speed which is still the limit, because we mainly have not synchronous upstream downstream, we have mainly still asynchronous. So we have more faster download than upload. Yeah. So, and especially in on county sites where we do not have that much of internet speed, it can be still an issue in that regard. We can password protect the backup that encrypts the whole backup. Then, if the password is lost, it cannot be retrieved. So, from that perspective, um, the password is useless if you have lost the password for it. The backup is useless. Sorry, the backup is useless if you have lost the password for it, and you can have 50 backups the same install if you and they are all encrypted. If the password is lost, all 50 are worthless. Now, what you see already here, we see that then afterwards further down in the live demo, there has something changed up in that regard here. We do not have that much we do not have that much options anymore to exclude or include in the backup. So for example, we can't choose anymore if we want to exclude the FQDN and license key. We cannot uh, include or exclude templates, that kind of stuff. All what we can choose is local temporary recordings or not. Yeah. Now, what is not restored when we restore a backup? That's the so-called host data. That is not restored. You will see that then um, further down the track when we restore, in the example, when we restore a backup, you will see it will prompt me again, like in the old traditional installation routine, for the zip and tunnel ports, the web server ports. It will not prompt me for the external RTP ports. It never did that. Um, and it also will not prompt me internal, external IP addresses of PBX, because it takes that automatically from the device settings, but it is not having these data stored inside the backup. So that data is not inside, cannot be found inside the backup. This will be adjusted based on the new install. Host and user data. So user data, that will be restored. These are extensions so like the regular extensions or for a user, the system extensions, voicemail, queues, IVR, all that kind of stuff, that will be restored. We had that yesterday already. Remember with the extension number length, when I said you can't change that anymore, it's because of that, because it literally is inside the backup. It will then also use VoIP providers and gateways. They will also be re-added, prompts that have been recorded, and also audio files. Um, these are the following configuration and user data that are included and restored. So it's taken as a backup and restored into the system user extensions, and department settings. So the system settings, user extension settings, and the department settings, the trunks and outbound rules, audio files like prompts, music on hold, that kind of stuff, call, chat, recording history, custom templates will also be included, so you cannot exclude them anymore from that perspective. Um, Logos will be included, firmware, faxes, and voicemail. That all will be included automatically. So there is no exclusion anymore, like in version 18, where you could exclude certain areas to reduce the size of the backup. Again, as we saw before already, we have in the backup options, we have recordings that we can include, especially if they are local. Um, if you use or your customer uses recordings um, in order to have them have the backup size not so big, and also have them easier accessible when you do a changeover. It's probably better to do them with store them with a offsite archive, so Google Bucket or Azure or an SFTP server, wherever. And then again, we have the opportunity for encrypt the password, or an encryption password, sorry. Again, here, if you lose it, all data is gone. Backup location options. We have local disk. The following connection formats are possible. We have the opportunity of FTP, of course, only used locally. We wouldn't want to use FTP over an internet connection. SFTP, that will be then the FTP version that we use via an internet backup. And then we have SMB, for example, again, if we have local Microsoft infrastructure, Google Storage, and SharePoint. Recordings do not need to be included in the backups. Instead, use the archiving functionality, define the location of the offsite archive, FTP, again, only LAN, SFTP, SMB, Google Storage, SharePoint, schedule immediate or regular archiving. We can set that up then. If we here we see, for example, Google Storage, we then need that JSON file. Then we need the folder path on the Google Storage site, and then the situation on how the update is, or the recording is uploaded immediately right after the call ends. This means that when you have a customer which has a lot of simultaneous calls, we have then, and all the calls are recorded, we have then with that situation here, we have the following scenario, that we have, for example, 20 simultaneous calls that are actively that are actively written onto the hard drive. And then we have, for example, 15 calls that are just finished. Oops, sorry, 15 calls that just have been finished, and the hard drive literally has to read them out to upload them. So we literally need a fast hard drive on there. So from that perspective, it comes down on where you install it on. Do you still install it on an old HDD infrastructure, or do we install it on SSD to actually cover the load? Because again, it is not normal data, which can have a little bit of delay in writing because it's buffered up. Audio is real time. So here, literally, what comes in here has to be written in real time onto the hard drive. And then also this one, this might allow a little bit of a buffer to go out because it is already recorded. It is real. It's not real-time data anymore, but again, it requires that it's actually also read straight after the recording. Um, Now, what we also then, with that solution, if we do immediately right after the call ends, have to bear in mind is that we have a constant data stream that comes inbound and that goes outbound of our internet connection if we do the remote archiving over the internet. So there can be a little bit constant use on our internet connection. And as we know, especially this one here again, this is real-time audio. We have to provide quality of service in that regard, so that we can deal with all the other traffic that is generated, emails, web browsing, maybe also um, the files are stored somewhere in Azure or where else ever nowadays. So there is a constant in and out of data, and we still have to ensure with that solution here, and generally anyway with the calls, incoming calls, that there is a constant stream going on, and we have to ensure that there is enough bandwidth to actually cover the active calls and not run into delays with jitter and uh, all the other things. Yeah. So we have then here the um, opportunity to enable transcription to automatically transcribe voicemails or recordings to text. The speech language is here written to English Australia, and then you can select what has to be described. And then we have here also the temporary recording location and the maximum quota for the temporary recordings. We can also then set delete temporary recordings older than certain amount of days. I have not yet tested that on the new system, if that is actually keeping all the recordings still. Generally, it should not. So I'm not really sure what remainders would be there with temporary recordings that are older than 30 days, to be honest, because we, in the end, would, in that case here, immediately upload them. So they should be gone once they are on the remote archiving location. I can understand that we can set here in the archive recording schedules that we can set here another time frame, how long they are there. However, it has to be in line then with that box here if we tick that, so not to that we delete the files before they are actually meant to be archived. We look at that then afterwards after the backup video. We look at that then quickly on the web GUI, on the web interface of the actual system. Now, backup scheduling, we choose the backup options. We set the occurrence timer if it's hourly, daily, or weekly. Then we define when it is done. In this case, it is now done midnight every Sunday. And then we configure the retention policy, which means we have 25 weeks of backups available on that system. So we literally have for it's nearly half a year, huh? 26 would be more or less exactly half a year. But yeah. Then command line backup is still available for Windows and Linux. All backup options are available, able to set a different local path for the backup file, backup to SFTP, SMB, Google Storage, and SharePoint is not supported. Yeah. So everything that literally goes over the network is not supported with the command line backup. Okay, let's quickly run into the backup demo. Bear with me. Okay, we go here into the system, we go into backup, and then we have here the backup scheduler. As you can see, you can tick those boxes. You can change the hourly, daily, weekly section. You can also change the hours to every hour, every second hour, every third hour, whatever. The rotation can be set, whatever. When we choose backup now, we can say include temporary recordings. This then just will make the system or the backup file bigger, which takes then longer to literally restore the backup. Then, of course, it will take a couple of minutes until the backup is then ready. We see now it builds up in the size. You see underneath there is a scheduled backup already there. So we most likely will have to get up to at least that size of it. It will be bigger because there is more data now stored on the system since the original backup has been done. So now that was done. Now I can download that backup file. Once that file is downloaded, we literally go to our 3CX and we say shut down the machine. It shut down then the that's the local 3CX. It should shut it down then. Now I'm very, very vicious with that system once it's then finally down. Quickly go there, quickly copy my MAC address again. I have it stored somewhere, so from that perspective, it's not really that dramatic if I lose it there. But yeah, still, if you can grab it there and paste it in a notepad, it's yeah. And now I delete the whole instance. The whole instance is gone. And now we do a little bit of fast forwarding because literally whatever we did already has been done already yesterday in the local on-prem installation. So from that perspective, we have that more or less everything in the on-prem installation video. It's just not necessary for you to sit again here for 20 minutes and literally watch on how we set up that VM. So we do again the same. I name it the same name. And you see even that silly password. Of course, do never use such a password, but it's just here for the example. The system is gone anyway again. So from that perspective, yeah. Again, the installation time all comes down on the hardware specifications of that machine where you install it on. If it's on a normal, regular desktop computer and you run it on that desktop computer in a virtual machine and you have other applications running in the background, it slows down that VM. Sorry, and of course, then by that, you also have a longer time to install that operating system and then also the 3CX on top of it. Yeah, so we see here again, we have the opportunity there to go between 3CX PBX or 3CX SBC. And once we have defined there, if we go for SBC or the phone system, then it actually installs the real system. Up to there, it only installed literally the operating system. Yeah. So it's yeah, really taking quite some time as well to install Linux. And again, now we do that famous HTTP and go to that port up there. And now we can either choose to upload a configuration file for a new system, or we restore a backup, what we are going to do now. So we say restore a backup. Then I take that zip file there. Then I click on next. And here you see now we can change the port. Now you remember the old system used 5001, so the regular, the old traditional 3CX HTTPS port. You remember we did the port forwarding on that end there. So from that perspective, we have to change the standard HTTPS port, which is 443. We have to revert that back to 5001 in order to be able to access the 3CX. we leave all the other ports as default, and then we go ahead. Now, there is something what I have never tested before in that regard. I also don't know how often you would come across that, but just quickly putting that down here. When you look now here on the FQDN to activate creating the FQDN, creating the certificate for the FQDN, there is only a limited amount of certificates that you can create within a 24-hour period. So now, if you have an issue with one of the servers and, for example, it does constantly fail over from one to the other one, which anyway wouldn't fully work automatically because you would have to change the settings in the backend again. However, if you ever come to the situation that you have to reinstall or reapply a backup multiple times, be aware of that you might run into the issue that you run out of availability of creating certificates. Yeah, just bear that in mind. As you can see now, we have not been asked for the IP addresses. You remember back in with version 18, version 16, version 15, 55, and all the way down, there always has been the question, is that do you want to install it on a split DNS system, or do you want to install it on a normal local IP? Is that the IP address of your network adapter? Just to confirm that it chooses the right one. And then it also asked about the static IP address for the uh, for the WAN side, and we have not come across that at all since we started yesterday the on-prem installation. We haven't seen that on the hosted system. We haven't seen that on the on-prem installation. We haven't seen that while restoring the backup now. Yeah. Okay, we have that all up and running. we can literally go into the old browser tab that we had open. Of course, we will be logged out because the PBX has restarted a new session, but we use the old username password, and we are back in. Of course, since we made a completely new machine, so we did flatten the server, the actual system is not available anymore. So the backup is not available anymore that we had before on the system, because we deleted the whole instance. So we created it new. There was no backup anymore available. Okay, we seem to have the same thing yesterday as well as yesterday. I have to check on those files why they actually are blank at the very end. Has to do something with the video editing software. Okay, so what we quickly do is, let me quickly open a tab and then go quickly into that machine here. Take that over. And then let's quickly go into here, backup. We have the location. You see, we have FTP, Google Storage, SMB, and SharePoint. We can change the local folder path. We had that already before. We can also choose a backup and then we can restore it, literally to actually see if it works. So what we can do is I can say I can add here a user. Let's say test@test.com backup verification. We leave that, we save that user. You also here you see 2FA is on. You can also turn that off. Save. We have that added. Now I want to see if the old backup is working. Now we have to wait until the server is up again. Let's see. We click on that people. Where does it go to? No. It's not there yet. So when we come back into the system, we should be able to see that that third user that I created is gone. Don't want to be there on the people. See, it's not fully up yet. I don't see the admin button at the bottom yet. Now the admin is there. Also users, you see the the verification user is gone. So from that perspective, the old backup works. However, this is a little bit of a tricky one when you do that on a live system, I have to say, when the backup is not working. Yeah, Houston, we have a problem. Just bear that in mind, that when you have literally when you want to verify that backup and you take a backup from here, you restore it that way, and that backup is not good, then your system is not good at all as well. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Yeah. With the backup, of course, what we have when we have recordings enabled on the system, if we store the recordings on the system, the backup will have an increased size. In that regard, I would advise remote archiving, FTP only for local, else Google Storage, SFTP, or SharePoint. And then based on them, you can literally set the credentials that are required. Google Storage, you enter there that JSON file, you enter then the folder path that you can access with that JSON file. The archive recordings, monthly, weekly, daily, immediately. That comes down to, again, the amount of recordings that are made and the possible hard drive usage that will occur by that. If you have a big customer who has all calls recorded, these recordings, they will build up dramatically fast, as you might know. So from that perspective, when we say immediately after the call ends, then again, you will have calls, ongoing calls written on a hard drive, and the finished call already being read off the hard drive and sent to the offsite archive. This can add more load on the hard drive. This can also add additional load then or constant stream on the internet. When you, for example, say you do it daily and then you do that at, let's say, 11 p.m. So you will have to have a certain amount of space allocated to collect and store all the recordings that are done through the day. And then you will upload them more or less all at once overnight. What then is required there, you have to ensure that if you, for example, have, I don't know, 10 gigs of recordings per day, comes down to the customer size, that when they start working in the morning, that you are not having still 80% of the recordings to upload. I highly assume that this is not the case, because if you have a customer who has that much recordings, then he also has a certain size of network, internet speed. Yeah. Then we can enable the transcription. Then you can choose the language. Now let's see. Swiss is not under it yet, yeah, so I'm a little bit disappointed, but yeah, no, it's okay. So yeah, you can choose the language. We most likely in 2030 year, we will then have like multiple different dialects here in Australia. Select what to transcribe, voicemails only, recordings only, or both. And then the link will be then here on how to literally set it up. 36 is very present with their documentation. Now, again, we have the recordings in that folder there. We define the quota for the locally used temporary recordings. If it's for local, if we don't do remote archiving, then we probably give it 8 or more gigs of space, however, how much we have and how much we need. If it's for immediate upload after the recording ended, so if we would go with this one, we probably require less space here. If we would do it with daily, comes down to how much space the customer fills up per day. And then delete temporary recordings older than, you see, you can't. That's then just if you have them stored on your hard drive in this case. Yeah. So it's either or. Okay. So delete temporary recordings after 30 days. You see, it's not literally called recordings anymore when you keep it on the hard drive. It's called temporary recordings. Okay, so that's it literally. Recordings, that was it, yeah. Okay, so questions.